there, welcome back to Inside. I'm Rachel Berry, and we're here with Heather from Foster Financial right now. And Heather, we're chatting about something, as you mentioned, there are two things in life that are guaranteed. What are those?
Yeah, they're not the most fun, but death is guaranteed at some point in our life, and taxes are pretty much guaranteed. So death and taxes is something that we talk a lot about, and I know this is not the most fun topic to talk about right before we're going into the holiday season, but because you're gathering with your family, to be honest with you, it's a great time to consider talking about this. People don't want to talk about death. They don't want to talk about taxes. Neither one are fun. But at the end of the day, if you don't communicate with your family kind of what your wishes are and how money's going to flow, or even how money works itself, it can cost you a lot more taxes, and you don't want to be rolling around, I guess, from the grave going, oh, my family paid more in taxes than what they should have. Most people work really hard for what they have saved, and they do not want to see it end up in the government's hands if it didn't need to be in the government's hands. So what I want to talk about, or just I want everyone to consider talking about, is one, make sure your family does have somewhat of an idea of maybe if they're going to be inheritors, how that money works. If they're the executor or the power of attorney, you may need to make sure that you start to bring those into some of your financial planning meetings, because if they're the power of attorney or the executor, they're going to be in charge of the distribution or potentially taking care of your finances for you at some point. So it's an open conversation. I understand it is a hard conversation to have. People get very emotional. We understand that piece of it. But if you don't talk about this and they go in blind as the power of attorney, they go in blind as being the executor of your estate or a trustee to your trust, and they don't understand how money operates, someone could end up losing a lot. So there are different kinds of money out there, and this is just a quick snapshot. You know, IRA money, which is pre-tax money, has never been taxed. As an inheritor of that kind of money, there are special rules depending on how close in age you are to the person who passed away. Nothing is easy with legislation, and legislation changes continue to change these rules. Roth IRAs, great, we love them, they're tax-free. If you inherit one, though, there's also rules with that, depending on the age difference between you and that person. You can get the money out tax-free, but you may be able to actually extend the growth of that account for an extra 10 years of tax-free growth. Then something called non-qualified annuities. This one trips people up a lot because they think, hey, the money was already taxed when it went into the annuity, but these have special tax rules. So there is a gain on the annuity typically. That gain is taxable. There is no stepped-up cost basis at death. Brokerage money, if you own stocks directly and you own them, directly yourself, when you pass away, the basis of that kind of money steps up to the date of death. No taxes for the inheritors. Property, land, farmland, typically houses, as long as it was not put into an irrevocable trust or the kid's name prior to death, you also get a stepped up cost basis. So not only is it talking about the money itself, but how does different types of money that you saved get taxed, and what are the rules when those people inherit those monies is really important. I do see all the time people come to us after they've accepted an inheritance, and maybe they cashed out an annuity or they cashed out an IRA or as a beneficiary IRA when they didn't have to, and they didn't have to get that big tax hit up front. So as you're sitting around with your families, I know it's a tough conversation, but just make sure that everyone's aware of kind of who's going to be in charge of this money as the distributor of the money, as the executor of the will, the power of attorney, and then also just what your wishes are. Nursing home conversations, another fun one, right?
Yeah.
But you need to talk to your family what your wishes are in case you ever needed some sort of help. Do you want to go to a facility? Do you want to try to remain at home? Most people want to remain at home. But what are your wishes, and would you want your family to try to protect the money that you've saved? There are currently in Indiana ways that we can work with the attorneys locally to protect a lot of the money from a nursing home spend down. So there are workarounds to pretty much everything if you do it the right way. So education is key. Having those hard conversations, maybe being a little bit more open. A lot of my clients don't talk about the money side with their kids or let them know kind of how much they have until they're in their mid to late 70s or early 80s, because it's really not theirs until they go. But there is a point where you have to bring those conversations to the forefront.
Yeah, well, Heather, thank you for reminding us. Yeah, once again, it's a tough conversation, but it needs to happen before it's too late.
Yeah.
So I appreciate Heather for being here. And if you have any financial questions, call that number on your screen for, of course, a complimentary consultation today.